A four-game winning streak for VGK. The Golden Knights right now are distancing themselves from all others in the Pacific Division. VGK is winning now, but are they peaking too soon? Our answers next on this edition of Locked On Golden Knights.
Your Locked On Golden Knights, your daily podcast on the Vegas Golden Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi again, everyone. I'm Tony Cardasco, host of the Believe in Vegas podcast, a new podcast, also a sports broadcaster for a long time and consultant in marketing in that category, marketing clients. Chris Golick, the collectibles editor for the Hockey News and the owner of Silver State Cards and Sports. Ahead on today's show as well. Did I maybe talk out of line? Perhaps too soon or what have you? Should Cassidy be up for the Jack Adams Award? We'll talk about that. And the Western Conference playoffs will be a gauntlet. The Golden Knights have 11 games remaining, Chris. We will be in single digits of the remaining regular season schedule by the end of this weekend. And some might believe VGK could be peaking too soon, but they have to keep winning because Los Angeles now just, again, on a four-game win streak as well, and they are 5 points behind the Golden Knights. And we know the way the Golden Knights have been scoring goals. They're getting terrific goaltending. You have to believe that they catapulted themselves into the conversation for the Stanley Cup to be a contender. But do you feel as though VGK is peaking right now? And we'll talk about whether or not it's the right time. Is this a team that's peaking? I believe they are because, again, it was that chemistry word from Bruce Cassidy. And when he started to solidify his lines, I think they just turned it up a notch.
I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at this. And first of all, Shea Theodore, 1 game removed from injury. William Karlsson, a few games removed from injury, but is he fully removed from injury? Tomas Hertl injured. Who knows what the situation is there? Let's assume not good for the sake of this conversation. So with all of that right now, it's hard for me, number one, to think this team is peaking. Yes, the results are going good. Yes, Coach Cassidy has the lines pretty dialed in. You're probably going to see some tinkering every now and then without Hertl in the lineup. And, of course, on the D pairings, well, Pietrangelo, I didn't even mention Pietrangelo being hurt, I don't think, a second ago. So with all these injuries, players coming back, no, the Golden Knights aren't peaking yet. There's still another gear. You have that championship pedigree from just a couple seasons ago, championship coaching, same thing right there. So there's more levels, not level, more levels for this team to get to. And I don't know yes, if this is right now on March 27th, if this is the best version of the Golden Knights, then sure, they peaked too soon. But I don't know, it's a strange narrative, right? We blurred this out yesterday when we were talking, and all of a sudden here's our top topic as VGK has an off day besides practice. So long story short, no, I don't think the Golden Knights have peaked simply based on the health of the roster.
I will say one thing. I believe that their confidence is peaking. I think they're a very confident team.
That's fine.
And VGK, if they go into a slide potentially, it will not be during this road trip because they'll play Chicago. The Blackhawks, I think, have a 2-game lead in the Tankathon over San Jose. And then you look at this Predators team, which is currently in 7th place. So I don't think they're going to, even if they split, that might be a surprise, but they shouldn't lose the remaining 2 games on this trip. Do you agree?
Edmonton, when they come back to Vegas next Tuesday, is a mash unit right now.
Oh my goodness!
What's that?
No, did you see Stuart Skinner got?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. On top of McDavid and Draisaitl being hurt, Stuart Skinner gets kneed in the head and no one does anything about it. Corey Perry was pissed after the game. Zach Hyman's leg bent like Eric Hollis did a few years ago when he was with the Golden Knights in Toronto, I believe, and had to get stretchered off. Hyman was not stretchered off, I don't believe. Let's be clear about that. So when Edmonton comes, who knows? But then you got a marquee matchup Thursday the 3rd against the Winnipeg Jets in Vegas.
Yeah, and I'll talk later about the Western Conference, but I don't know. Everyone seems to overlook the Jets. They really do.
Because they
When
know they don't win big moments. That's why they have to prove it. Like the Florida Panthers winning the Stanley Cup, same deal. Paul Maurice had to prove he can do it. Pete DeBoer got to prove he can do it.
All right, so VGK, agree or disagree? The Golden Knights are playing their best hockey right now.
Oh, gotta agree. 100%
Okay,
agree. They're,
so
I mean, looking
they
in their
are
last
peaking.
10, they're 6
So
2
that
and
is
2.
so that might constitute peaking.
It might constitute peaking, absolutely. If you're only looking at the results, absolutely. Yes, they could be peaking right now. It took a little bit longer than the 22-23 season, but now this is reminiscent of after the All-Star break of the 22-23 season. There's a little bit of a lull, a couple games after the team came back from the Four Nations. But now, obviously, things are going a lot better. But again, Shea Theodore, one game back. He's probably 70% of himself right now. William Karlsson, I don't know if has been more than 60% of himself this entire season, nor do I know if he's ever going to get to better than, let's say, 70% of himself, just the way things have been going. Not knocking him. He's hurt. It's obvious. Pietrangelo, this ailment all of a sudden came back, or there's a new injury, or it's the ailment and the injury. Who the heck knows what's going on there? And then, of course, Hurdle again. We don't know what the end game is with Tomas Hurdle's situation. So, yes, Golden Knights are peaking right now, but based on the roster, there's more levels coming, Tony. This team has more levels to go if they get to full health, which I don't think is going to happen.
We do see Bruce Cassidy's system in full effect right now because this is again
They're
the
dialed in.
residue of his entire structure, and that they're winning now as they're plugging in pieces. And again, it's that chemistry thing. Players are coming in and out, but they're still staying consistent, which is good for VGK fans to see. Unlike in other sports, right? In the NHL, it always comes down to the final game. So the Golden Knights et al. Will not be able to rest anyone. It's not like in the NFL, you wrap up your division or the conference or what have you with the best record, and then you can just rest players late in the
It
season.
doesn't happen as much, though. It's been a lot
It
closer in the
doesn't.
NFL.
It does. Yeah, but it does not happen almost ever in the NHL. Correct? I mean, it
Well,
comes down
yes,
VGK final day.
yes.
Yes, 2 seasons, I think. Stanley Cup season comes down to the very end of the season, right? Final game last year.
Yeah, no, number one,
They
yes,
tank that. They tank that game, of course.
you are
Red
accurate in the
hot.
sense that it comes down to the final game or the final weekend,
You
final
can't
set
rest
of
guys.
games.
You can't.
With VGK, they got a back-to-back Calgary and Vancouver. Both those teams could be in the playoff hunt as
It's
well.
a back-to-back and a
And
back-to-back
it is. And the other thing
against
about
those two
this
teams.
is the lack of NHL rosters are small, right? It's 18 skaters and what, 2 or 3 scratch. I think it's 22 players. I could be wrong, but 22 or 23 players. So there's only so many players you can move around and scratch and stuff like that.
That's
Even
right.
if you
Teams
do
go
have
11-7 a lot.
well, whatever. I mean, but point being is there's not a lot you can even do if you wrap up, if your playoff spot is solidified. There's nothing else you can do, whether it's a division win, leading the conference, or if you're stuck in, wild card one and nothing's going to change in the last weekend. We've seen like Gallant was notorious for resting players down the stretch and things like that. I don't think we've seen that out of Cassidy too
No,
much.
if you're able to do it, then you can do it. But no, I don't think Cassidy's not being able. He couldn't afford to do that.
No, and I don't think the players want it either, to be fair. I think they want to play out the stretch and everything and come into the playoffs with a running starts and to get going.
The Golden Knights will be the last team to start the playoffs because it's rigged, right?
Well, here's why they could be one of the last teams to start the playoffs. You get this
West
little thing
Coast.
called WrestleMania in Vegas.
Okay.
And SmackDown and Raw will be at T-Mobile on the Friday and the Monday. So T-Mobile is booked for events. I think it's the Friday the 18th and Monday the 21st. I don't know if they would take down. I mean, they could do it, supposedly. They could take the Raw set down on the 19th and 20th and set it back up. I think the season ends on the 18th, if I'm not mistaken, though. Golden Knights season ends on Wednesday, April 16th. So playoffs will probably start that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday after. So the Golden Knights might be the last team because they can't use T-Mobile on Monday.
Yeah. Do you agree that this team does have chemistry now?
Of course.
I mean,
What am I
even
walking?
with the
What am I walking
even with,
into?
no, I'm just
Oh,
saying, even with the parts, the pieces coming in and out of the lineup, and I think a big addition now was Shea Theodore being able to get back into the fray.
well, and I mean, if we're gonna go a little deeper right now, what can Nicholas Waugh do at the moment? This is one of the biggest moments of Nicholas Waugh's career to get the tap, if you will, the tap on the head to go center that second line with Brandon Saad and Pavel Dorofeev. We'll see if that lasts or if William Karlsson winds up moving around. I mean, yes, there's chemistry, but there's also going to be some experimenting. Assuming just for a second, the roster we see tomorrow against the Blackhawks is what starts game one of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So there'll be some movement still.
I know you saw my tweet yesterday. I don't think you did anything with
Which
it.
one?
The Grant Fuhrer one. 75
Oh,
games.
I did. No, I
75.
didn't.
I told
I
you.
didn't question. I
He
just
played.
told you in that one season it was
He
48 to
played back to
43.
yeah. He played back-to-back games whenever. 75 games he appeared.
Yeah.
He started 73.
Well,
That's
and they drank a bunch of beer in intermission two of the games back then. But
of course.
no, I mean NHL goaltenders used to be like
They're
starting
soft.
pitchers
You
in the
can't say it.
80s.
They're soft right now. They're soft.
Yeah, of course. They used to be like starting pitchers in the 80s where if they get taken out before the eighth inning, come hell or high water, they're pissed.
Right.
You know,
Right.
if they don't throw
Hey,
115 pitches, they
I
stay in the
worked
game.
I worked 4 innings, That's it. I'm tired.
No,
Okay.
58 pitches. That's your starting pitcher. Or there's
Coming
or teams are starting with a closer to start the game. What the heck is what's going on here, Tony?
All right, drink your trade coffee because we'll talk about them on the
Yeah.
break. But should Bruce Cassidy be a Jack Adams finalist? We'll talk about that as we return right here on Lockdown Golden Knights. If you're like me, your mornings have to start with a good cup of coffee. But I got tired of settling for grocery store brands they just weren't cutting it, to be quite honest. That's why I turned to Trade. And let me tell you, this coffee is next level. Trade is the #1 specialty coffee marketplace in the U.S., bringing you fresh coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Their experts have taste tested all of these coffees, thousands of them, and they curated over 450 amazing roasts. Love this story. Whether or not you're new to coffee or you know exactly what you like, they will handpick the perfect match for you. I took their quiz, and in under a minute, they matched me with a roast that was fresh. It smelled incredible, and it tasted even better. My first bag was a game changer. First of all, I smelled the bag. Coffee smells delicious. And then when you taste it, it has a smooth, rich flavor, and I could actually taste the difference from my usual coffee. The subscription makes it so easy. There is no more last minute grocery store shopping. You don't have to make a run last minute and settle for whatever is on the shelf. And if you don't love your first bag, no worries. Trade will replace it for free until they get it just right. So, right now, this special offer for all of our fans and friends, you'll get 40% off of your first order. That's right. Go to drinktrade.com/lockedonnhl. Right now, 40% off, and you'll get that off of your first order at drinktrade.com/lockedonnhl. Back on this edition of Locked On Golden Knights from Las Vegas, Tony Cardasco and Chris Golick, Mr. WWE himself. And boy, those tickets are so pricey, huh? Yeah.
They're actually
There's
coming down a little bit. I'm watching them. I
it's like
got a couple
everything
numbers
else.
in my head that where I would go to WrestleMania.
Okay, give us
And
one of those numbers. How much would you spend?
I mean, if I can get us 2-day tickets for under 1,000 all day, I'd probably do it.
You would do that.
Considering I almost pulled the trigger
Chris,
closer to 2,500 when they first started selling.
To take little Chris.
I mean, listen, it's one. I don't care what people's thoughts are on it, but it's a destination thing.
It's a once in a lifetime thing. It is,
and I don't got to pay for airfare or lodging, and 2 or 3 days of eating and spending a bunch of money.
Right,
it's cheapest it'll ever be for me.
I heard the employee of the year wants to make some more money in the budget, so she might start charging you rent. the message. Okay. I perhaps spoke out of turn by saying that his wife should start charging him rent. I perhaps spoke out of turn by saying that I felt that Bruce Cassidy should be among the favorites to win the Jack Adams Award.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a coach that we see every day here, and I think he's done a remarkable job with his team, just based on what they lost and almost 200 points. And wow, I mean, just players that they thought were irreplaceable. But when I took a look at the odds board, he's not even in the top 8, according to the latest betting odds. Maybe perhaps, again, because we watch Cassidy every day and we know that he's done a terrific job. And I can't say enough, truly, about the way that he has developed the superstar Jack Eichel, to turn him into that two-way player, to the degree where Eichel's just playing very well defensively and offensively. But again, I regress. This is not about Eichel. This is about Bruce Cassidy. And so Spencer Carberry of the Caps is a huge minus 700 favorite. Dean Evison, Columbus, second at plus 600. Scott Arnell plus 1,500, plus 4,000 for Todd McClellan of Detroit, and then plus 5,000 for, I guess, field entries. John Hines, Jim Hiller, Travis Green, your guy, one of your faves, and Martin St. Louis. But nowhere in sight is Bruce Cassidy. Does he deserve more respect? I believe he does.
Golden Knights, or Coach Cassidy, I saw somewhere opened around plus 2,500 as far as
2,500. Yeah.
The Golden Knights were not expected to be this
You're
good.
Going chalk. That's where you're going, bro. Come on, man.
The Golden Knights were not expected to be nearly this good on March the 27th, even amongst the Stanley Cup contenders. I mean,
correct.
We're a long time removed from.
I said second or third in my prediction. I think you were about the same, right? No?
Oh yeah, no one. Yeah, second, third, safe playoff team. Maybe they make a run right now, which they are. But I didn't think they were going to be leading the division most of the season. So Golden Knights definitely are outperforming their expectations. We're now about 7 months removed or so. No, about 9 months removed of an off season that was the worst in the history of the Golden Knights as far as losing nearly 200 goals.
Yeah, it was tumultuous.
And now you look at what Jack Eichel is doing, and Jack Eichel's growth is completely tied to Coach Cassidy. I'm not taking anything away from Eichel when I say that, but now that he has Cassidy, now that he has a team around him, now that he's in a real relevant hockey market, unlike Buffalo, you see what Jack Eichel is doing right now. And then, by the way, a lot of things have happened this year. The power play, Coach Cassidy's thumbprint is on that. Pavel Dorofeev becoming what he is, his thumbprint is on that. Ryan Craig also gets some kudos for Dorofeev. Not a lot, but he gets some kudos for Dorofeev. You look at everything else that's happening. You look at the lines being shaken around. You look at how Tanner Pearson's done well. You look at what Brett Howden is a great example of the work that Cassidy has been doing this year. The defense is injured and as questionable as things have been, they're getting it done as well. So Coach Cassidy gets a lot of credit for all of this. Is he anywhere near a finalist? Okay, we're not taking Spencer Carberry off. We're not taking Dean Evanson off, Blue Jackets. Travis Green, very admirable what's happening there.
You'll take him off.
Scott Arniel from the Jets. Again, you look at what's happening there. Marty St. Louis with the Canadians are doing well. John Hines and the Wild, I don't know about that. Jim Hiller and the Kings.
Look at all the injuries. Hang on, bro. Like, seriously, John Hines has done a remarkable job.
He's done a remarkable job, but
I mean, what is
the Wild might not make the playoffs still?
50 some odd, maybe 55 games. I don't know. Go ahead.
If there's a team that might drop out of the playoff hunt, it's the Wild.
It
And I
could
have
be
a
the
hard
Wild.
time
They'll
giving the coach of the year to anyone who doesn't win, who doesn't make the playoffs. Now, the Blue Jackets could be a different argument for a lot of reasons. Jim Montgomery, look at the late run, of course, of what's happening with the Blues. And so, yeah, I mean, Jared Bettner, he's got a great roster. Rod Brindamore, I don't know about that.
What are their odds? I didn't. What are their odds?
I'm looking at a different place. I'm seeing about
Okay.
200 to 1 on like John Bednar right now. But I mean, it's Carberry. The Caps could lose every game. Carberry could take the rest of the season off. Carberry would win. Is going to win the Jack Adams. Basically, should Cassidy dethrone Evanson or Green or RDL or Marty St. Louis or Jim Montgomery? I don't think so. But doesn't take anything away from the job that Cassidy has done this season either.
And one of the areas, again, specifically to talk about is the fact that Cassidy perhaps is channeling Scotty Bowman, becoming a solid power play coach. I wonder how much input he now has, because is VGK second, or did they move up in power play?
It's been
In the power
second. I
play?
don't know if they got past. I think is Detroit number one still or something.
Yeah, but no, he's become an elite. Should we say the word elite power play coach? He's definitely had an input in it, because obviously he was the power play coach with Team Canada. So I know that he's definitely been more aware of how to
More of a
create
ceremonious thing when you have all the when you can sit out McKinnon, McDavid, and Crosby on a power play unit. I don't know how much the coach has to do with that. Golden Knights are number one over Winnipeg right now. 30.1%. Winnipeg 29.7, Detroit 29 on the head. So playoffs are going to be a big thing, I'm telling you, especially if there are these injuries that do linger into the postseason. The Golden Knights power play might be what buys them enough time for Pietrangelo to get right. I feel like his situation is more of a shutdown, but of course they're on the road, so you're not going to get a question asked from the media until he comes back, and they still might not ask a question. And then you look at Hurdle as well. So if the special teams can get him through the first round, you might get a full version of Pietrangelo. You might get Hurdle at whatever degree he could be in if he does make it back in this season.
Coming up next, the Western Conference playoffs will be a gauntlet. We'll talk about that as we return right here on this Thursday edition already of Locked On Golden Knights. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites, because Indeed's sponsored jobs put your post right at the top of the page and help you to reach the right candidates faster. And of course, again, as Chris and I have local businesses, and sometimes I have to hire somebody and late. I've been in that spot before when you need the right hire, like yesterday, and the pressure's on, and every day without the right person is an absolute setback. That's exactly when Indeed's sponsored jobs come in handy. They will make sure that your post is seen by the right candidates and right now. And now you can speed up the hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockdown. Again, Indeed.com/lockdown right now to show your support of our show, Locked On Golden Knights, and just say that you heard about Indeed on this very podcast. Terms and conditions do apply. If you are hiring, Indeed is all you need. Go to Indeed.com/lockdown. Back from Las Vegas, Tony Cardasco and Chris Golick. We appreciate you making us your first listen daily. Thanks again, and make sure that you please do subscribe to our Lockdown Golden Knights YouTube channel. Of course, tomorrow, get lined up there, because we're going to have tomorrow's WTF day with the Friday. And there's already I think, some good ones that maybe we could take there. And on Saturdays, sometimes we've got the Chris Jr. show. So are you guys going to do a podcast? It's -700 that we'll have another Chris Jr. show here. before the end of the season.
It's a good
Against,
line.
is that a good number?
It's a good line. I got. You're telling me I got 4 weeks to pump out one?
Yeah. Yeah. Are you going to pump out one? Are you guys going to get back in the
I think we
biz?
can pump out one.
All right. So VGK, they're going to have to earn getting out of the Western Conference because it is really tight. It's very competitive. Perhaps right now, as the standings go, they'll take on either the Wild or St. Louis. There, with St. Louis closing really fast, the Wild have a game in hand. I was looking at the standings last night. Some teams have already played 73 games, so they just have 9 games to go here. So again, after Pete DeBoer stormed off the podium, I think the Dallas Stars, to me, I think they're back on track. And
Those blew it last night to a MASH unit Oilers team.
right, they have beaten Edmonton. They beat Minnesota. Again, not world beaters, but I think they're going to be there in the end. And I feel as though the Cup in the West will go through Dallas. But you've got the Avs, you've got the Kings, you've got VGK. And why doesn't anyone really give the Winnipeg Jets a chance to win? The Jets, again, they are in contention for the President's Cup, for the President's Trophy. Them and Washington, they're going to battle down to the wire. And I think it's going to be very VGK-like. They might try to tank it there in the last game of the season, one of those teams.
Again, Winnipeg, everyone around the NHL is waiting for Winnipeg to prove it. Everyone thought in 2017, 2018, the Jets would have an easy path to advancing to the Stanley Cup final, but the Golden Knights beat them 4 straights. So the Jets, the Golden Knights and the Jets have, how many times have they faced? 3 times so far in the playoffs? Twice? 3? At least twice. And then the Golden Knights won 4 in a row both times, I believe. So the Golden Knights have had the Jets number. Jets got to win a big series. Jets got to at least get to a Stanley Cup final, or they're not going to get that respect. Similar to Pete DeBoer, similar to Paul Maurice, of course, before last season when Paul Maurice won his first Stanley Cup. Looking at this, like there's an argument right now for the playoffs. Everyone's making the big thing. It should be 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, so on and so forth. It's not fair, blah, blah, blah. Shut up.
It's not fair. It's rigged. It's rigged.
But with what's happening in the West right now, it doesn't matter. You got to beat these teams anyway. You have to win these games. It's going to be a tough series no matter who you play. Yes, winning a division gets you that 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7 setup, and then 3 versus 6 versus playing, the second best team in your division. I don't know how much of a difference that really is right there. I don't know if it matters a whole lot right there. Sorting the division right now by the conferences, basically you would have Vegas as the 3rd seed. So Vegas is actually benefiting from this right now, Tony, as they're going to get as they would play the second, or that they play the top wild card team instead of matching up against Edmonton in the first round if it was a 3 versus 6. Colorado and LA would match up if it was 4 versus 5 instead of Colorado and possibly Dallas matching up in the first round.
We don't want to see.
I don't think any of this matters at the end of the day, but
I don't want to see the Kings in Edmonton again and again and again.
Oh, I mean, there's 2 teams that have a lot of questions in the West right now. And number 1 are the Minnesota Wild. We'll see what their health is and if they even maintain playoff position. And then number 2, of course, are the Edmonton Oilers with all their injuries. Will they get back? Will they get Draisaitl and McDavid back? Doesn't matter anyone else, but will they get Draisaitl and McDavid back before the playoffs? It seems like they were only going to be out roughly a week or so, and that was roughly a week ago. Hopefully, I hope they're both back next Tuesday when Edmonton comes to Vegas because I love seeing McDavid play and Draisaitl, so I hope they're both back. But that's the other big question mark right now in the West. Assuming McDavid and Draisaitl are back in the playoffs, Edmonton is a tough out. And if Minnesota is in the playoffs, chances are Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson Ek are back. That's a tough out. A couple good goalies in Gustafsson and Marc-Andre Fleury as well. Yeah. If the Minnesota Wild don't get in, you're going to have a team like Calgary who's really hot right now, or the Vancouver Canucks who were the darling of NHL last season, winning the Pacific.
Okay, so I said earlier that I believe the Western Conference goes through the Dallas Stars. Should Rantanen stop getting hit in the face with the puck? That guy's had the worst luck. I think he has just like one assist.
I think Colorado needs a little more respect, Tony.
And that's what I was going to ask. Who do you feel it has to go through? Do you feel it is the Avs?
I think starting with the Central, it's the Avs.
No one, there's no respect. Put some respect.
Give me championship pedigree. McKinnon, Makar, and Bednar have done it before. There you go.
Okay. I'm just saying though, no one is.
Hellebuck. Connor Hellebuck is notorious for not playing well in the playoffs because of his fatigue. We talked about goalies playing 70 games or whatever. Hellebuck is the closest thing. I think he'll get close to 60 by the time the dust settles. If not, if he doesn't get in the 70s this year.
Yeah, that's a pretty remarkable story. That's a guy that needs to be shut down. Do you think Pietrangelo will be out more than day to day? You and I have been just begging.
What's day to day in VGK terms, Tony?
That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
Day to day, he might not come back until 2027, dude. What are you talking about?
They won't.
Day to day, we're monitoring it. We're on our 24th opinion right now.
They're not going to
see what he needs.
They won't need him this weekend.
Held 55 appearances this year, 60, 64, 66 in the previous seasons. So Hellebuck's probably going to get to about 64 appearances this season.
That's pretty amazing. That's really amazing. And I don't understand still why goaltenders won't go back to back. It's a big day on the UNLV campus. I'm heading to Rebel football practice. Spring practice under Dan Mullen is here today. So I'm heading.
Baseball opening day. Bust out the Bad News Bears jersey in honor of it.
Jeez. My Yankees will lose on opening day. Bet against them. No pitching. We appreciate everyone tuning in, of course, especially our everydayers. We thank you so much. Tomorrow, please line up everything, your comments for WTF, because we definitely enjoy reading those on our show. Don't forget, again, tomorrow's WTF day, and please subscribe to our Locked On Golden Knights YouTube channel. For my man, Chris Golick, I am Tony Cardasco. We are peaking, Golick. We're peaking. I'm Tony Cardasco. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Golden Knights, and please take care.